Hey, what's up? Let's open our wireframe, to which we'll be applying some styles to make it more eye-catching. We'll start with the background. Remember that by selecting on one element of the artboard, we can access to its corresponding group directly. For example, press Command and click on this button. This way we won't have to go to the panel all the time. Once selected, the inspector panel shows us some settings, and among them, there's one called Fields. Our button is currently gray. Is that okay? No, we want the same color that the button of the final project. So, click on here and a panel drops down. Here we have the color picker, where we can choose the color we want manually. Under it, we find the RGBA codes of each color. R stands for red, G for green, B blue, and A alpha, which refers to the opacity. Okay? We also find this dropper tool, the eyedropper, which can be enabled by pressing Ctrl+C. Then this kind of magnifying glass appears and lets us pick a color anywhere from the screen. Okay, not only here, but anywhere. Well, guys, for the moment, I'll paste here the codes of the same blue, but you can use the color you want. As you can see, the values change according to the color we chose. Below, there is an option called Global Colors, where the most frequently used colors can be saved so that we can use them anytime we want. So, we can save them in Sketch, which will be here in this option, or in the document we are working with, in this case in the Document Colors tab. Let's save this color by pressing this plus icon, since we'll be using it a lot. Before continuing, I'm going to uncheck the borders, which appear selected by default, since we won't need this option. After unchecking it, the border is no longer visible. Let's remove it as well. See? The Borders tab is now empty and there are no borders. Once the color is selected, within the Inspector panel, we can also control the blending mode. It is the way it blends with the objects behind it. If we select Multiply, okay, it blends with the color under it. With Difference mode, this is the result, with Saturation this, and so on. Within Fill tab, we can also change the opacity by changing the percentage. Try it by yourselves and see if any of them works for your portfolio. Okay, in my case, I won't choose any blending modes for the moment. So select Normal and 100% opacity. The Fields feature is really cool since it lets us add more than a field to the same shape. Click on the plus sign on the right to generate a new fill layer. Have a look at the top of the panel. The flat color option is unselected, while the linear gradient one is activated. Okay? This allows us to add a gradient layer to our shape. In this menu, we also find a color picker, the eyedropper, the RGBA codes, the global gradients. So this panel is pretty similar to the flat color panel. The only difference is this bar over here for selecting and editing the gradient. We can move the slider to the left or to the right to modify the gradient. We can even add color stops to change the gradient orientation with the arrow next to it. Okay? All these actions will be added to the full fill style we had previously, since gradients color aren't 100% opaque. If you look at the A mode, it's at 50%, okay? Let's press Command-T to zoom in order to check how the different fields look like in our shape. Check or uncheck each of them to activate or deactivate them. Let's remove this one first. So, we could create a gradient which goes from white to dark blue vertically. Select these points and instead of the gray, use the color picker to select blue. Change the white for a lighter blue as well. And thus, we have added another gradient to the background color. Linear gradients are frequently used, but they are not the only one. There are other styles like the radial gradient and the angular gradient, which work similar to the linear and with the same options, but the effect is different. If we click the plus sign, we find the option Pattern Fill to generate hatchings and textures. Regarding the hatching, we find some default options here in the Global Image tab, but we can upload ours if you want to. Regarding this pattern, there are different fill options. The option filler is already selected by default, which is applied on the image we are working with. We can select another option like Stretch, which stretches the pattern until covering the shape. Also, if we see that its quality is poor, we can select the option Fade, which doesn't stretch the pattern but center it. See? However, the one we are going to use the most is the tail option, which repeats the pattern without stretching it. The tail option also allows us to change the size of the pattern with this slider below. See? So the squares are bigger or smaller, depending on what we want. So guys, these are the options we have to fill the shapes with patterns. You can play around with the patterns and apply them to other shapes if you want, but in our case we'll be only using flat colors. Let's uncheck the fill layers we just created, and after that, don't forget to remove them. Okay? So uncheck and remove. Perfect. So we are going to use the pattern option for the headers image. So select this big rectangle we created for the background image, and then add a new pattern fill layer. That's it. Click on Choose Image and select the pattern we downloaded from the Attachments tab of the project. Select the image and add it. Among the options we saw before regarding patterns, let's select Fill. This way, if we scale the image up or down, it adjusts automatically to the available area. This is another advantage of pattern fill option. Now that we've explored some shape fills and I gave you this tip regarding pattern and background images, let's do the same for these 4 images we have here using pattern fill, which are these 4 cycles in the portfolio section, okay? We won't be doing now the image of the About Me section because we are going to use masks in this case. Well, there's still other objects that need to be filled, like this button over here, this other one. The logos into the headers. If you think you're ready, stop the video here and insert them by yourself. If not, let's do it together. So we're going to apply the same color to all the buttons, and we are going to do it one by one. Select it and check the border. Then select the color previously saved. Don't forget to change the color of the footer. Show and move the reference up above the footer. We see it's a darker tone. Go to the group and select the background layer, and with the eyedropper, select the color of the reference. When we hide the reference, we see that the color has been applied. I'm going to make lighter the background of the About Me section. I think this color is fine. Let's copy it and use the same for all the objects within the contact form section, okay? Don't worry about the text for the moment, okay? Select the social networks and check the border and add the fill. I'll paste here the gray I used before, okay, but you can choose any other, okay? What else? For the logo, I'll use a pattern fill with an image of myself. In your case, you can use your own logo, your initials, or whatever. Okay. Let's duplicate it and use it also for the other logo at the bottom. Perfect. So this has been everything so far. In the next lessons, we'll be editing the text and other objects. So guys, see you in the next video. Bye!